Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be working on a little Petite Blythe. I'm going to show you how to take them apart and some ways that you could customize one. They're not my favorite doll to customize because they're so small and it's really delicate work, but they're extremely cute. So let's see what we can do to make this doll look a little bit more customized and a little bit better features and hair and that sort of thing. So you just unscrew that one screw on the back and then the face comes off in two pieces. They have a little tiny body that has bendable legs. Arms don't bend, but that's just a little teeny tiny little body. Now the head has this eye mechanism that's gravity activated, so that if they're upright the eyes open, but if they're lying down it's closed. But honestly, anything other than completely upright, their eyes are closed, and that's why I don't like the eyeballs that come with them. So what I do is I just remove that and put in regular eyes that are stationary and that don't move. I also like to have a little bit bigger iris. Now the only way to get the color off is to sand it, so I use this 3M, it's like, you know, got the foam backing, so it's sort of easy to get in all the little crevices. You cannot use acetone on this material because it will just melt it. So just really very little paint on these little dolls, so it's not too hard. But it's nice to get it all roughed up anyway, because that makes all the work that you're going to do a whole lot easier in terms of painting or using pastels or whatever you're going to use. So basically right now I'm just sanding off all the color. There's some color around the eyes and on the lips, and then I'm just roughing up the whole rest of the face basically, so that it'll be matte, and then we can start carving. Now with these little dolls there's not a lot of real estate to carve with, but we do try to do the lips, the nose, make the mouth a little bit wider on either side and define the lips a little bit more, and the nose also try to define that. And I usually sand it down a little bit because it's really pointy, just like the regular Blythes. They have that really pointy nose. So we're ready to start carving at this point, and I usually start with the mouth because that's the hardest and I like to get it out of the way. So first part is just to widen it some, and from that point you can sort of see, you know, where you're going and how you need to shape the lips. So usually I'll try to deepen the crease between the upper and the lower lip, and also put a little, I guess, dimple on either side of the lips. I use X-Acto knives, and I have several different types that I use. I use one that's really thin and pointy, I use one that's curved, and then I use just like a regular typical X-Acto knife that's a little bit bigger but pointed. And the reason I have the different kinds is just trying to get into different areas. Some of these work better than others, and the curved blade works well because sometimes when you're working with a straight blade, if you're trying to carve in one area on a face that has contours, it could cut the back of the blade, or the lower part of the blade could cut into another area. So with the curved blade, it's really good for scraping and getting in areas where you don't want to make a mess with part of the blade on another part of the skin. So what my main objective with the lips is to widen the smile, deepen the upper and lower lip so that they're a little bit bigger. So the only way to do that, because you can't add to the front of them unless you use epoxy, is to carve around the edges so that the lips stick out more. So basically I either am scraping or carving by digging in with the blade and then pulling out, you know, a little chunk of the plastic. So this is like a hard plastic, it's not soft. But scraping with the X-Acto works really well. if you're, you know, working on a small area. And I also use a nail machine, you know, that people use when they fix your nails, like that sort of grinds it, but it's oscillating. It doesn't rotate, so it's a whole lot less dangerous to dig a hole in it than a Dremel is. And I'll show you that when we get to that part. But there are some areas that I just feel like I need to grind down a little bit more, and I'll use that instead of the X-Acto. Mainly because my hands, I've told you guys before, I have a lot of arthritis in my hands, and sometimes doing this work is really painful, actually. So anything I can do to help would be great. So here I'm using that curved blade, trying to carve out a little bit around the nose. I want the nose to be a little bit more prominent, and also scraping around that the area above the upper lip to make that protrude a little bit more. And all I can say is just be really careful, because, you know, it's really easy for you to slip using this technique of holding it while you're cutting. And yes, I have dug the X-Acto into my fingers before. In fact, I dug it into my left thumb so bad that I still have like a neuropathic pain. I don't think the nerves ever grew back. So just be really careful if you're using X-Actos, because it's easy for the blade to slip. Just try to make really small cuts and small motions. You know, you don't want to dig into something with the blade and have the end result being it digging into your skin. Now this is the nail tool that I bought. And you can buy these really cheap off of Amazon or wherever, but they're just like a nail tool, and it oscillates. It doesn't go around and around like a Dremel does, so it's a little bit easier to use on these dolls, so you're not making real dramatic changes. And, you know, would be so easy to over drill and just, you know, drill a hole through these things, because there's not a lot of depth to this plastic of the face. Right now I'm just trying to make the nostrils an actual hole, because it was really just like an indentation. And you can use like this really thin X-Acto to do that, or you could use that tool with a really thin sort of grinding, like a pointy thing to dig into that. The thing is, if you don't have a hole already started and you try to use that, it'll slide off. So I'm trying to kind of get a hole started with the X-Acto by twisting it back and forth, and then I can use that grindy tool or nail tool. You see it has a really pointy tip on it to just drill into that. So just be careful. I have pierced this all the way through the nose before. Everything is small movements when you're working on a doll this size. Well, I've done it on a Blythe too. You know, I rammed that up their nose and it came out up the top of the nose. So yeah, just want to be careful. But the nice thing about these things is they are cheap. They're much cheaper than a Dremel, and you can get all kinds of different little bits to put in them to use for, you know, different areas of grinding. I like the kind that have the ball on the end, and they come in different ball sizes, so it's a whole lot easier for you to grind and not, you know, have it be like a flat surface. It's just a round surface, and that's good for, you know, doing like dimples or indentions on the upper lip where you want to make the philtrum. Like these dolls don't have a curved philtrum or a concave philtrum, so it's really fun to put that in. I think that adds a real dimension to their faces. So just really still working here. I do want to show you as we go how it looks versus where we started. So I'll show you a regular Petite Blythe beside of the face as we carve it, so you can kind of see the difference. You can see the nose is a little fatter and the lips are more pronounced and wider. You know, very subtle changes. You know, like I said, there's not a lot of real estate to work on these dolls, but you can definitely make them look a whole lot more realistic and cute, I think. You can even carve out the opening of the eyes to make them a little bit bigger. I do maybe that just a little bit. I don't like to do it too much because it just starts to look unrealistic at that point. But here's where that curved blade works well, like just curving, kind of scraping under the bottom lip to deepen that area. And because, you know, the blade's curved, you're able to just carve with just that very end part and, you know, not get into the chin area with a straight, which would be a problem with a straight blade a lot of times. The straight blades tend to work well in some areas, and then the curved blade in others. But I think you kind of need both. I think, you know, I really like having the 3 blades, the one that's really thin for certain areas and one that's a little bit thicker, and then this curved one. So if you're looking at blades, those are the 3 that I would recommend. And I keep them in different holders so I don't have to change them as I'm doing them. So still doing a lot of defining work on the lips. Just want to have those be a little bit more protruding. Now I am going to try to shape the actual lips a little bit too, which is really hard on these little small dolls. But there's another side by side to show you where we are. I do sand a little bit as I go, because then you can kind of see where you are with what you've carved in a smooth way, so you kind of know how much more you need to do. And sorry, I go off camera here sometimes because I'm working and concentrating and my hands just tend to go closer to me. But anyway, there's where we are right now at this point. I think she's coming along really nicely. Now I do want to put a crease down the center of the bottom lip, and I'm going to carve into that right in the center. Just the bottom lip, not the top lip. The top lip tends to have a center that protrudes with 2 little grooves on either side of that, and we'll be working on that later. But this, I'm just trying to put a groove down the center of the bottom lip, which I think looks cute on a lot of dolls. And it's kind of like a baby's mouth, you know, that has those little cute protruding lips. You know, I just think that's adorable. So that's one of the things I'm working on. There's just lots of ways you could do this. Some people are doing open mouths on their petites and basically just carve it out. You might need to put a backing on the back so you can't see through it. But the area right behind where the mouth is on the Blythe is the mechanism where the neck locks in on the body. So you know, you have to think about that. You don't want to make it so that you can't put the body back on by doing away with that little mechanism. It's like a groove on the back. I do usually grind out the grooves where the eyes fit in on the sides, just because I'm not using them, and it allows me to use a little bit bigger eye. And we'll talk about that more when I get ready to put the eyes in. We'll just be doing the face up on this video, and then we'll be doing some other videos to show you how I'm going to do the hair and making a costume for her. And that's really difficult for these little small bodies, let me tell you. Really small. But right now I'm just still working on that bottom lip, just making sure that I have enough of the under the bottom lip carved out so that it looks like a little poochy bottom lip, kind of like a baby's lip. It's the only way I know to decide. Sometimes I'll use the tips of those drilling tools to sand, because they're gritty. And that's what I'm doing here. It's so hard to get into that area between the lips. Really hard. But that works a little bit. Not super great, but if you can get it ground down a little bit, then you can just use your regular sandpaper. Now I'm going to use the small round ball on that nail machine to try to carve out a little bit of a philtrum, that groove above the upper lip, and also use it to make a little dimple in the bottom chin. I don't want it to be super deep, then I think it starts to look sort of comical, but you can use this smallest ball for these dolls, but there are bits for a little bit larger dolls that you can use, and I think they're one of the best things. And you do have to get those through the nail the nail bits. It's not something that's sold like in a hardware store or whatever. So I got like this whole kit that had probably 50 different little things, and I use about 10 of them, but you had to get that to get the ones that you wanted, and mostly it's for these little round ones. And you can also make it a little bit, harder, not harder, but faster. Make it go faster so it grinds a little bit faster. Those little machines, which are nice. So now I'm just kind of sanding off to see where I am, how much more I need to do. This really helps you because you get, some rough places and then you can't really tell how it looks. So just making sure I sand enough. Also, one of the things I'll do is take a picture of the doll's face close up and then use the picture to enlarge so I can really see detail. And that really helps me know where I need to do a little bit more finishing work. My eyes, I do wear bifocals, but still, you can only see so much without a magnifying glass. So on these really small dolls, I'll do that. I'll take a picture of it on my phone, and then I can take the picture and, and expand it to blow it up so I can see a little bit more detail. So anyway, we're getting down to the end here, and let's take another look versus our other doll. You can see the mouth is a lot different, and the nose is a little blunter, a little bit bigger looking. So I think it's looking pretty cute. I think we're about ready to put some color on her. So the first thing I'm going to do is put down some protective base on the face. That's also going to help give it a little tackiness so that the products that I use will stick. And I use Mr. Super Clear. Use the matte version. There are 2 different versions, so you want to get the matte version. You want to take this outside and use a respirator mask with this product. It is dangerous to use without that in terms of inhaling it. So I think we're ready to start putting down some color, and I'm going to start out with chalk pastels. I'm going to be putting a light color on this bottom lip, a light pink, and then I'm going to use a darker pink around it. One thing you want to take note of is with pastels, I always want to take a little bit of the powder off before I start putting it on the doll, because it spreads and it'll get on the rest of the face. Now, you can usually just blow it off, with your mouth, just blow, and the particles will come off, but there's always a chance that it will put color on areas you don't want colors. And when you're working with these little tiny areas, that's a problem. There's just not a lot of area there. So anyway, I'm just putting that light pink down on the bottom lip, and then I'm going to go in and use a darker pink on the corners, the upper lip, and in the crease between the 2 lips. And that's just because when you think about something that sticks out, it's going to catch light more. So, you're thinking the bottom lip is sticking out, it's like more protruding, so you're going to just see a little bit more lighter color, and that gives it that dimension and texture that you want to have to make it look more realistic. Using just like one flat color would look more like how the dolls are. Really, they just put like a pink on it, and that's a mouth. Okay. Sorry, I'm off camera again. I know, I apologize, but I don't always see it because I'm working. I try to adjust when I see myself do it, but I get so intent that I forget sometimes. I apologize, but that's the nature of art, I think. Also, it kept focusing on my hand. I was having trouble keeping it focused on the doll's face because my hand was closer to the camera. So that was another thing I was kind of challenged with working on this, because they're so small. They're so, if it's a bigger doll, the depth of your hand may be the same depth as the face of the doll, so it's not a problem. So right now I'm putting that darker pink on and making more of the upper lip, and darkening the corners, and also shaping the lip. So you want to have those parts that are in the middle of the upper lip come up further than the upper lip on the sides. So this is just really tedious work. I am going to use some watercolor pencils. You just have to make sure they're really, really sharp. And I'm using that to draw on the bottom of the bottom lip to create that sort of darker look that would be on the shadow of the underside of the lip. Just trying to leave a little bit of that light color on the center pieces, and also putting some dark color in that crease in the center. So you see right here, like the camera's focusing on my hand and not the face. This drives me crazy. I try to catch it when I can and make it refocus, but it's got an automatic focus, so it just kind of does this on its own. And if I'm not looking at the monitor, if I'm looking at the doll's face instead of the monitor, I don't see it. So there it goes back to focusing on the face. Trying to come up with better ways to do this, but it's hard with these little tiny things that you do. Alright, just still working with a watercolor pencil. I'm not putting any water on it. I'm just using, the pencil as it is, because for this size doll, I don't really need to use water. Sometimes I'll use a toothpick like I'm doing here to put color in areas. Like I've put just a little bit of a dark gray in the corners just to make that dimple look a little bit deeper. Not enough that it looks weird, like a weird color, but just enough to make a shadow. And you could do that in the dimple and in that groove for the philtrum also. I'll tend to use the brush for that, but toothpicks work really well. And also, if you make a mistake, I'll take a toothpick and dip it in some water and use it to correct little small areas. Like if I make a little small dot on the face, I can use that. So lots of little things you can use. Sometimes I use Q-tips on bigger dolls, but on these dolls I'll just use a toothpick and wet it, and then usually you can get it out. With that Mr. Super Clear, really protects the face and also creates that tooth that you need to have the pastels grip it. So it's a nice base. I've used other things. Right now I'm just using Mr. Super Clear mostly. And now I'm putting a little blush on the cheeks. I'm trying not to touch it because I don't want my fingers to transfer any dirt or just anything onto the things. I'm having a hard time making it stay still. So I was bracing it with my tool here so I can put the blush on the cheek. But I like to blush the cheeks, and then also like to do a little bit of contouring around the edge of the face. Again, up near the hairline, it could be darker because there'd be shadow there, and then on the sides of the face. So I'm just using a really, really light tan color to put up at the top of the face, and then I'll probably add a little bit of a pink blush to the center just because that's where the sun would hit it. I'll put a little bit of pink on the tip of the nose too. Again, just because, that's where the sun would hit it. And I'm thinking this doll's going to be in a winter outfit, so also you could think that, hey, if you go outside and it's really cold, your cheeks are going to get rosy and your nose gets rosy. So I think that would be kind of cute too. So under the chin, doing a little bit of shading there. And these are all very subtle because it's such a small doll. You just don't want to put too much color. It just makes it look like a clown more than anything. But if you put the pastel on your brush and then you run the brush over the paper towel and get most of it off, then you can slowly build up the colors. A lot better way to do that than putting down too much at one time. So I'm really loving the way this is turning out. She's so soft looking and everything looks pretty even. So I'm pretty happy with how she's doing. So the next step is I'm just like to do a little darkening of the edge of the eye because I think it helps define the eye area a little bit. It's not a huge amount, and I just run the pencil along the inside edge. I'm going to try to put a little bit bigger eye in this doll than it really calls for, just because I like the big eye look. And I think this accentuates the eyes a lot too. And there's different things you could do with eyes. It's not the only way to do it. Also, I want to put a little bit of shading in the nostrils so it actually looks like nostrils. It's a little shadow there. If you make a mistake, like I said, you could use your toothpick and wet it if you get some of that pencil on the outside of the skin or outside of the nose. And then just using a little tiny brush to try to create a shadow around the corners of the nose and also in the center of the filter. And again, just using a very light tan color. Don't want to add any sort of dramatic look that would make it look unrealistic. I always get the pencil on stuff when I do it this way. I don't know why. But anyway, that easily cleaned up. Just wet a tip of a toothpick, and you can usually rub it right off because these are watercolor pencils. So, and usually the pastel comes off pretty well too if you've put Mr. Super Clear down, or you could use a white eraser, which I do sometimes as well. I have a little tiny one, and it works great on these small areas. But just doing little touch-ups now, making the cheeks a little bit rosier and adding a little rosy color to the forehead and the nose. So she looks like she's been out in the cold a little bit. These are cute with freckles too. I'm not going to put freckles on this doll, but they are cute. I'm just using a real light blue color above the eyes just to give it a little bit of a shading. I also usually come down around the edges of the eye beside the nose, because our eyes do tend to have a little blue color right, on that either side of the nose, right beside the eyes. So I like to do that. And then after we finish this part, we can start working on the eyebrows, which that's always fun. Trying to get them even and expression. I think eyebrows really add a lot of expression to a doll. So for this doll, I'm not trying to go with a surprised look or a mean look or anything like that. I'm just looking for a nice smile. So she'll have pretty, just straight across eyebrows. But to do that, I typically like to put down a little bit of chalk pastel, and then do a watercolor pencil very sharp on top of that so it looks like the hairs. But I think that, for me, I like the way that looks. Some people just use pastels and some people just use watercolor pencils. Whatever you like is fine, because this is art and an expression of what you want. Alright, I'm just giving you some techniques. If you want to try them, that's cool. If not, you can come up with your own ideas. But starting out with just a little light brown, and I actually ended up being too light brown, so I had to go with a little bit darker brown. And then I had too much and I made it too far on the side, so I had to use a couple of techniques to get rid of that. I used water at first, and then I used an eraser, but it usually comes off pretty well because the Mr. Super Clear really protects that. I also use a cuticle stick a lot of times. Doesn't have to be a cuticle stick, but just like a piece of wood like that that's pointed. I like, because you can really pinpoint areas if you wet it. And then also using just a white eraser. This is just the pencil eraser, but I do have a smaller one that I use on smaller areas. And I think I use a little bit later here. I'll show you what that looks like. And you can get those things on Amazon real easy. But in this case, you also want to think about the color of the hair, because that can dictate the color of the eyebrows. And I'm thinking she's going to have either blonde or white, actual white hair. And in that case, I don't want the eyebrows to be super dark. But if she was going to have black hair, I might make it a darker brown and use black for the eyebrows. This is just a dark brown watercolor pencil that I sharpened really sharp because I like it to look like real hairs. And with eyebrows, if you look at your own eyebrows, they kind of start out sticking up, and then as they move closer to the side of your head, they tend to lie down and point towards the side more. So that's basically the technique that I use. The first part kind of sticking straight up, and then the rest going towards the side. Lots of people use different techniques, but this is what works for me. Now this is that little eraser I was telling you about. It's got a little tiny point if you have little areas that you want to erase. And I was thinking that this had gotten a little dark, so all I'm doing here is just lightly stroking up to a little, just to kind of lighten the background a little bit. Just thought they were getting a little bit too dark looking. And I didn't want it to look like that. So with blonde or white hair, she would have fairly fair eyebrows. And then I made some of the strokes too long, and I had to erase some of those, but that's okay. It worked good. Anyway, that's kind of our finished look. Now I've got to put some eyelashes on, and I'm just going to glue on just on the inside edges. And these are just fake eyelashes that I bought, and just glued on the sort of corner. That I didn't want them to go over the whole eye. I wanted it to look more natural. So now you can see a little bit more of how that face has changed. Really liking the way this is turning out. She's looking really pretty. Now I have two eyeballs here, and one is a little bit bigger than the other one. The smaller one is really the size that you need to fit in the socket, but I don't like as much the way it looks. I like more the way the big eye looks in the doll. So you can kind of hold it and look and see what you like. The problem is that it doesn't fit exactly up against the eye, so I did do a little bit of work on the back to sand out that back a little bit just so it would fit better. And it doesn't look bad to have the small eye. You know, it's okay. I just, for this doll, I wanted it to be like big blue eyes. And I'm also going to have the gaze slightly deviated to one side. I don't want to have her looking straight ahead. You think about all these things, they affect the character of the doll that you're creating. So, you know, you can put those in and move them around, see what you like. But I'm thinking I really want to have them somewhat deviated to the side. So now at this point, we're going to go to my standby E6000 glue. Are you surprised I haven't used it yet? Anyway, just going to take a little bit on a toothpick and put it around the edge of the eye socket on the back of the head. And then I'll just press the eye against it, and then we'll glue it into place. So I'm going to do both eyes, put the glue down around both eyes, and then just pop the eyes. It doesn't dry, so fast that you can't do it that way. It's not like super glue. It does dry pretty fast, but not that fast. It dries faster than like Elmer's glue or the white glue. And it's waterproof, which is another thing I like about it, so it's pretty durable. You know it's my favorite glue, of course, if you've watched this channel at all. So putting this down. Be careful if you do turn your face over like this. I did make sure I didn't have anything under it, but if you happen to have like some pastel that you've rubbed on your paper towel and you put the face down on it, you could get that on the face. So just be careful. And oh, you may have noticed my ring is lighting up. I have one of those rings that measures your pulse and everything. It looks like a green light was under there. I didn't notice that before. That's interesting. That's not always on. I wonder what it was doing. What is it measuring? Anyway, we're back to the doll. So, yeah, so now I'm just pressing the eyes in and making sure there's no glue squishing out, or anything like that. Because once it's dry, then you don't want to have to rip it out and start over again. I did get some glue on one of the eyeballs, and I cut out that part, so I didn't want you to have to see that, but I had to clean the eyeball off and then stick it back in. So at this point, we got our eyeballs in and pretty much finished with this face up. So what I'll show you next is a close-up of a regular Blythe, regular Petite Blythe, and then the face as we finished it, so you can get a good idea of the changes that we made. And I'm really happy. So we're going to let that dry, and now I'm going to show you. This is the regular Blythe, and I did prop her up so you could see her with her eyes open. Just, seeing the difference in the eyes and the eyelashes and the expression and the lips. And now look at the face that we did. A little bit bigger mouth, bigger eyes, eyelashes more realistic looking. So thanks for watching, guys. I'm going to come back soon with another video and complete this customization. But for right now, that's it. I hope you liked it. Please subscribe if you can. That helps my channel grow. Thanks, and bye.